Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is Gittin daf Nun Tet. Our Mishnah had mentioned that the rabbis eventually said that if somebody takes away property under the threat of death, and basically they have the power to kill you, so that which is not a good thing, then if you want to now this new person, the thief has your land, and now somebody else wants to buy the land, and the question is, what rights do they have? So the originally they had to buy it in the right order. Eventually, the decision was made that you can buy that if the Sikrikon had the land for more than a year, then the buyer could keep the land as long as he gave 1/4 of something. Big Sikrikon is the thief. Sikrikon is a thief. As long as the buyer gave 1/4 to the original owner. Okay, so we'll James will be our original owner here, and so Caesar comes and takes James's land, saying, "Listen, I'm gonna, God forbid, kill you if you don't give it up." And of course, James, the wise man, gives it up, and then I go over to Caesar and say, "Listen, I'm happy to buy your land." A year later, and he says, "Sure, I'll sell it for $100." All right, and so now the question is so how much do I owe James? That's the debate that we're about to have, and let's take a look. So, how do we calculate that 1/4? What? So we are at the 2 dots on Nunchet Amabet, second wide line. So 58B3. Perfect. Exactly. All right. So Zo Mishnah Rishon. Now this is a quote from our Mishnah that was what we did originally, namely that you had to buy it in the right order, and if you didn't buy it in the right order, you had to return it. But then, based in Shalach Amru, a later court said, "Halokeach min hasikrikon," that one who buys it from the sikrikon, nosin leba'alam revia. They just have to give the original owner 1/4. Okay, and so Amar Rav, revia b'karka o revia b'maos, that if you give the land, you have to give 1/4 of the land, which is 1/4 of the money that you paid. So now, 1/4 of the money that I paid to Caesar is $25. $25 reflects 1/5 of the value of the overall land. So if because I paid $100 for it, and now I'm giving James $25, and so as a result, if I were to give James the property that's associated with it, I would need to give him 1/5 of the property associated. So again, I gave to Caesar $100. I'm giving to you $25. So the total value now, total value that I've given is $125. So we can take a look at Rashi here. Rashi helps us out. So im Amarav Revia Bakarka O Revia B'mos. Oh, yitain l'balim revia mos. You either can give 1/4 of the money, shenasan la'obe kochavim, of the money that you gave to the non-Jew. So I gave Caesar $100, an extra quarter. Correct. Correct. Another quarter. Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. So then I have to give him. I give $25 to James. Oh, yitain lo karka shava revia hamos im lakha b'mana. Okay. Or I have to give James a value of the land that's worth 1/4 of the money that I've given to Caesar. So imla kabamana. So if I buy it for 100, no saying low revia mana, I have to give 1/4 of that, the 25. Oh minakarka atzmo shava revia mana dahainu chamishit shibakarka. Right, so or I give 25 worth of the land, but the entire land is worth 125. So as a result, I'm going to give 1/5 of the land. 1/5. It's correct. That's exactly the presumption. That's the presumption that the Sikrikon is going to sell it for less than it's actually worth. And we're going to see that that's the debate between Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel says that the discount that Sikrikons give is essentially a 20% discount, and the discount that Shmuel says is a 25% discount, meaning 125 to 100 is a 20% discount. And we'll see the view of Shmuel in a moment.
Who wins?
Yeah,
But you have to give 1/5 of the 125, correct?
Yes.
1/5 of 125.
Correct. Exactly. Because 1/5 of 125 is 25. Exactly. So it's 20%, but it's $25. Okay. So dahainu chamishit shebakarka. So that's 20% of the land. So im habalim chafatzim bakarka. If the owners want the land, the kasava Rab, because what does Rab think? Nechi chumsha zavim min ha'ovid kochavim shava chamesh ba'arba. Right. So if in fact, right, the total value is 5/4 of the amount that you paid, and the assumption is that the non-Jew, the Caesar in my example, will discount the price by 1/5, by 20%. So hilkoch yavle revia mana o chamishis hakarka. So you, in the end, you give either a quarter of the mana, a quarter of the amount that you paid, or 20% of the land.
That's if a Jew is buying it back from Caesar.
Correct. That's exactly right. The hainu revia mana shakarka niknes misikrikon b'mana shava chameshes reviim. And that's the, because again, the Sikrikon is going to sell what is worth 5/4 of a mana. He's going to sell it for 1 mana. That's the discount that he gives. All right. So now let's go back into the Gemara where it says Ushmuel Amar. So it's the 4th of the wide lines, first of the words on the line. Ushmuel Amar Revia Bakarka Shehain Shlish B'maos. You pay again. Everybody's assuming it's 1/4 in quotes of the land, but it's equal to 1/3 of the amount of the money. Why? Because if I pay now, so I paid again Caesar $100, so now I have to pay James 33 1/3. Because if I give James 33 1/3, so that 33 1/3 out of the 133 1/3 that I will have paid in total is 1/4. And if I want to give James land, instead of giving him money, I would have to give him 1/4 of the entire land. So though that's the approach, and we can pick it up in Shmuel, right? In Rashi, excuse me, in the 4th to last line of Rashi, at the first word on the line, Ushmuel Amar Revia Hakarka Atzmo no saying low. You give 1/4 of the land itself, or Oshlish Mana Desaver, or 1/3 of a mana. Again, assuming that I bought it for a mana. Desaver Shmuel Niki Riv'a Zavan Shava Arba Lokeach B'Shalosh. That if oh, that was something. All right. Darn it, I'm not good at the bracha. Okay, but so it's a bracha when you hear lightning, yeah, when you hear thunder. All right, but in any event, so the okay, so well, we can do it for next time. All right, so if in fact the land is worth 4/3, so then the discount, right, is 25% off of that, which is 1/3. So now you pay a 1, and that way you've gotten a discount of 25%. So you have to either give the land of 1/4 of the land, or you give 1/3 of the price paid. So hilkach sadazu shalakach b'mana shava arba shlishi mana. That when the land that actually was worth 4/3, you only paid 1/3. Okay. Yeah. But all right. So we'll get that when we see the next big thing of like Yeah, but it's not clear. I think that it's unclear whether if you just see sort of the light, that may not be enough. You really need to see the beam itself. Exactly. Okay, in any event, let's get back to it. So, all right, so we now have these two views, Rav and Shmuel. Rav says that you have to give 20% of the land, which is 1/5 of the amount of the total amount that you'll pay, but it's 25% of the cash that you will have given to the Sikrikon. And Shmuel says, no, the discount is 1/3 of the amount of money that you paid, and which will then be 25% of the entire thing. And so if you give the land, you have to give 25% of the land. So, b'mai kamiflagi, what are they really arguing about? So, Mar Savar Nechi Rivia Zavin, Umar Savar Nechi Chumsha Zavin. So, Shmuel says that they discount the price by 25. Shmuel says they discount the price by 25%, and Rav says that they discount the price by 20%. Okay, so now we're going to ask from a brisa that seems to support Shmuel, seems to support Rav and challenge Shmuel. So may say, so Mishnah Rishona, that's what this is again, a brisa that says a similar language. This was the original teaching based in Shalach Arei and Amru, but then a later court said, Halokech min ha-sikrikon nosin lebalim revia. If you buy it from the Sikrikon, then you have to just pay a quarter, v'yad ba'alim al helyona, and the owner has the upper hand, meaning the original owner gets to decide how he gets paid. Ratzu b'karka notlin, ratzu b'maos notlin. If he wants to get paid with land, he can get paid with land. If he wants to get paid with money, he gets paid with money. Ein Masai, when does this happen? When does this ruling apply? Bisman she'ein b'yadon likach. That's when the owner doesn't have the ability to buy the land himself. Aval yesh b'yadon likach. If he has the money to buy himself, well then, hein kodmin l'chol adam. Then they go first. But Rebbe Hoshiv based in Rebbe then convened the court and said, actually, we're going to change the rule again. The Nimnushim Shasap ifnei Sikrikon Shneim Asar Chodesh. If in fact the land stayed with the Sikrikon for 12 months, well then Kol HaKodem Likach Zacha. Then anybody who buys it can acquire it permanently. Aval Nosin Lebalim Revia Bakarka O Revia B'mos. But you have to give either a quarter of the land or a quarter of the money. Now that was exactly the wording that Rav used, Revia Bakarka or Revia B'mos. Now again, even though it says a quarter of the land, you're actually giving 20% of the land, but it's an extra exactly. It's 25% of the amount paid. Okay, so it's the 25% of the amount paid with an equivalent amount of a land that is worth that amount. Okay, so again, so that seems to be very much consistent with Rav and not Shmuel. So Amar Rabashi, Ki Tanya Hahi, la'achar shabo mos liyado. So the point is that, so the answer for Shmuel is no. When we say Revia there, we're talking about post having paid the money. So how much of, so it's after I pay James the amount that I owe him, that amount of money will be worth 1/4 of the total amount of money that I paid. So if I paid Caesar 100, well, then I have to pay James 33 1/3, because then the 33 1/3 will become 1/4 of the amount I paid. And so that is how Rav Ashi says you can read this brisa even according to Shmuel. Okay, so we have not successfully proved the halacha that Rav is correct, and indeed it seems that the halacha follows Shmuel in this case. Okay, so yes, so Amar Rav, so Rav says, Anna, as we turn to Nun Tet Amud Aleph, Anna havai b'minyana debei Rebbe uminai didae manu bereisha. So I happen to be, so we had just quoted a brisa, and we quoted a brisa that says that that what Rebbe did in his court to change the rule to basically say we're going to presume after 1 year that the original owner, James, had the opportunity to buy it back. He's chosen not to. And so as a result, if I buy it from the silicone, I can just pay James 1/4 of the value. And so now Rav is saying that I was there when Rebbe's court did this, and they began counting the votes on this issue with me. And so now the Gemara asks, one second, we learned a rule, Dine Mamonos, V'hataros, V'hatumos, Matchilim in a gadol, that when you have votes in connection with monetary cases or with cases involving Tuma and Tara, so you begin with the most senior judge. But Rav wasn't the senior judge in that case. Rebbe was the senior judge. But Dine Nefashos, Matchilim in a. But when you have cases that are capital cases, when life is at stake, well, then you need to begin with the least senior judge. And this is based on a pasuk in Shmod Kaf Gimel pasuk bet, where it says, Lo taneh al riv, and the word al riv is written without the yud, as Rashi explains, and we learn from it that you're not supposed to argue with your teacher. And the simple understanding of that verse is that verse deals with capital cases. And so as a result, in a capital case, you're not supposed to argue with your teacher. And so as a result, we have to make sure that the students go before and give their opinion before the teacher. So that way they won't be influenced by the teacher. Otherwise, the teacher in a capital case would have the only vote, and it would be the decisive vote in any capital case. Go ahead.
It seems to me that that's counterintuitive, because in a capital case, you would want your most senior judge to be the lead.
Right, but the concern is that then you only end up with really one judge. And so in a non-capital case where we don't have to follow the teacher, this is a criminal court. Capital case. So in a capital case, so we want the junior judges to go and give their opinion before the senior. But the bottom line is we have a Mishnah.
This judge is conservative?
We don't know. Some of them might be conservative. Some of them, indeed, the point is that they should be all different kinds. You want to have all different kinds of judges. Indeed, one argument as to why we have 3 judges on any court is because we want each judge to take a viewpoint of one of the litigants, and that way the third judge can decide between them. So in any event, the bottom line is that, but this Mishnah said that with monetary cases, and of course this is a monetary case, we're supposed to begin with the most senior judge. And here Rav was speaking first. So how could that be? So the Gemara answers, Amar Rabba Brei de Rabba, V'itema Rabbi Hillel Brei de Rabbi Valas. So Shiny Minyana Debei Rabbi, the court of Rabbi was different. De Kulho Minyanu Minyanenu Minatzad Havumatchilin, that in all cases they would begin from the side. So Rashi and Tosfos here have a disagreement as to what that means, meaning why is it that they would always begin from the side? So according to Rashi, it's based on that same pasuk of Lo Taneh al Riv, that you should not argue with your teacher. That the point is that that even though we understand that verse as applying only in capital cases, Rebbe was strict and said we're going to apply it even in other cases, or we're worried that people will apply it in other cases. Tosfos doesn't like that and offers instead the solution that says that no, it's actually, and this is the top Tosfos on Nun Tet Amud Aleph, that no, it's actually more based on the fact that Rebbe was a tremendous anav, was a tremendously modest person. Indeed, as we said at the end of Sota, that when Rebbe passed away, that Anava passed away with him, that was the end of true modesty. So that is that's the machlokas between them. But this is very much of an aside, but we now build on that aside because now we're going to have another statement of Rabba Brei de Rava, the Item Rabbi Hillel Brei de Rabbi Yavalas. So let's take a look. For Amar Rabba Brei de Rava, the Item Rabbi Hillel Brei de Rabbi Valas, Moshe ad Rebbe, from the days of Moshe until Rebbe, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, that is, Lo matzinu Torah gedula b'makom echad. we never found the person who was the greatest Torah scholar and was also the greatest in some kind of leadership manner in one particular person, except for Moshe and Rebbe. Below. So now, of course, the Gemara is going to ask and challenge this a number of times and see what the story is.
This is the one that we got from Vermont.
Oh, wow. Okay, yes, it could very well be. Yeah. So 1 second. Yoshua. What about Yoshua? When Yoshua, after Moshe, Yoshua led the Jewish people into the land of Israel, and he seemed to be.
Then Moshe.
Moshe, yeah, Moshe. He was a successor for Moshe.
Rashi, he's bigger.
Oh yeah, bigger than Rashi. So Yoshua came after Moshe, and wasn't he the biggest and most important person in Torah and rulership at the time? So no, Hava Elazar. Elazar was the Kohen Gadol at the time, and he was equal to Yoshua in terms of Torah. So Hava Elazar. Well, 1 second after Yoshua died, so then you only had Elazar. Well, no, Hava Pinchas. Pinchas was also at that time, and he was also a great Torah scholar. Well, Hava Pinchas. Well, what about when Pinchas was all by himself? So no, Hava Zakanim. There were the Zakanim, and at that time, so the Zakanim and Pinchas were equal in Torah scholarship. Well, Hava Shaul. Well, what about Shaul? Shaul was the king, and he was a great scholar. Well, Hava Shmuel. The problem is that Shmuel was alive during Shaul's time, and Shmuel was as great or even greater than Shaul in Torah. Well, 1 second. Didn't Shmuel die while Shaul was still king? Well, Kula Shnei Ka'amrinan. Well, no, you had to have been equal. You had to have been great. You had to be the greatest in both Torah and leadership for all of the years of your greatness. And Shaul was not didn't have that greatness for all of the years of his leadership. Well, 1 second, V'hahava David. What about King David? Wasn't he a great Torah scholar and also the leader? Well, no, because Hava Ira Hayairi. So Ira Hayairi was greater than David in Torah scholarship. So as a result, that's why he doesn't count. Well, 1 second. Ira David died while David was still Melech. So Kulashne V'ina. No, again, you needed all of his years for it to work. Hava Shlomo. Well, what about Shlomo? Shlomo was clearly the greatest in terms of the leadership, and presumably also in terms of Torah knowledge. Well, no, Hava Shimi ben Gera. There was Shimi ben Gera who was as great as Shlomo was in Torah leadership. Well, V'hakatlei. Well, 1 second. Yes, Shimi ben Gera. Shimi ben Gera was the guy. Was he the one who? I can't remember. The story. Well, it notes here. Shimon ben Gera met David HaMelech with 1,000 followers in Shmuel Bet Parak Yud Tet Pasuk Yud Chet, and so that's the highlights that Shimi was a great Torah scholar. And Shimi was executed for insurrection when he defied Shlomo's order in Malachim Aleph Parak Bet. So Shlomo had him executed. So Kulug Shnei Kamrinan. Again, you needed to be the greatest in both leadership and scholarship. As great as Shlomo in terms of scholarship, but the problem is that he then didn't do the right thing and effectively rebelled because he didn't follow Shlomo's leadership. So the point is, you could be a great scholar, but not necessarily do the right thing. So, a second, but Hava Chizkiah. What about Chizkiah? He was king and a great Torah scholar. Hava Shebna. No, Shebna was during the time of his life, and he was at least as good in Torah scholarship. So, Iktil. Well, again, Shebna was killed during his life. Well, again, Kulashne Kamrina. You need to. We're focused on somebody who, during all of the years of leadership, also had all the years of being the greatest Torah scholar. Vahav Ezra. What about Ezra? he had both. Hava Nehemiah ben Chachalia. No, Nehemiah was in the same lifetime as Ezra. Amar Rav Acha Brei de Rava. So that's it for the challenges. And now Rav Acha, the son of Rava, says, Afani Omer, I say also, Mimos Rebbe, Ad Rav Ashi, Lo Matzina Torah Gedola b'makom echad. There was again, you same rule, that same story. You didn't between Rebbe and Rav Ashi, there was not that same kind of Torah and scholarship and leadership in one place. Below, is that really true? V'hava Huna bar Natan. Huna bar Natan was considered, comparable to Rav Ashi in his time. So no, Shani Huna bar Natan, Demechav Hava Kayef le Rav Ashi. He subordinated himself to Rav Ashi, and so Rav Ashi was therefore considered, the top scholar and the top leader. Okay, so that is our Gemara, and that brings us to the next Mishnah, which continues our discussion of rules to benefit society. So now we're going to deal with rules that detail how we allow deaf mutes and minors to perform transactions. So really, they're not supposed to be able to perform transactions because they do not have sufficient understanding, sufficient capacity to engage in those kinds of transactions. So Cherish Romez Venirmas, that they can engage in transactions by signaling, by indicating things with their hands. Ben Beseira Omer Kofetz, not Vinikpats. Not only can they signal with their hands, but they can even use their mouth to indicate their intentions, or that people can use their mouths to indicate their intentions with them. They don't need to actually signal with their hands or their head. The metaltalin, but this is only for movable property. Okay, and ha'pa'otot, children, young children, mekhan mekach umimkaran mimkar, that what they buy and sell is sold. But metaltalin, again, when it comes to real property. So the Gemara asks, Amar Rav Nachman, now the Gemara is going to qualify and say, are we talking about, and actually we're going to have two different versions of Rav Nachman's statement. And the question is, when we say movable property, what's the implication with respect to Gittin? Do we say that the same rule applies with respect to Gittin, or do we say that a different rule applies? So Amar Rav Nachman machlokas b'metaltalin, that the machlokas is with respect to movable objects about begittin divrei hakol b'remiza. But when it comes to divorce, the only way somebody who's a deaf mute can engage in divorce, that is only through hand gestures. And even Ben Beseira, who says that you could use a mouthing of one's intentions, that's not going to work for divorce. Pshita, but isn't that obvious? But metaltalin tanan, our Mishnah explicitly says that the ruling of Ben Beseira is with respect to movable property. So ma'udetema, I might have thought af metaltalin, that it was really even with metaltalin, because and Rashi explains af metaltalin ma'udetema af metaltalin kamar v'kolsha kain begit. That we're saying that, and certainly when it comes to Gittin, we'll allow the mouthing to work. Delo tema Gittin who dekili mishum, and don't say that the Gittin is actually more makil mishum dekapitza kanas bekapitza yotzi. That after all, when the marriage actually starts, the husband, who is a deaf mute, is able to use kafitza with respect to the start of the marriage. So since he can use kafitza with respect to the start of marriage, and we often align the beginning of the marriage to the end of the marriage, so maybe we will say that it works even there. Aval b'metaltalin shenafla b'Yerusha lo mishum haki tanan b'metaltalin. So, and I might have thought that actually it's even better. The Gittin is even more lenient in this area than metaltalin, because how could somebody become the owner of metaltalin? They could become the owner of metaltalin through Yerusha, through inheritance, and then it actually belongs to them. And yet, as a result of the fact that they and yet we're going to allow them to use mouth movements according to Ben Beseira in order to convey the property, the rabbis will allow. So certainly I might have thought that they would definitely allow divorce because because mouth movements were sufficient to allow the start of the marriage. So Kamash Milan, that therefore Rav Nachman teaches us that no, Ben Beseira does not accept the mouth movements alone to engage in divorce. So that was opinion number one in our Gemara according to Rav Nachman. But now we have a second version of the same statement of Rav Nachman that differs. So Amar Rav Nachman b'machlokes kimachlokes b'metaltalin, just as there is this debate with respect to metaltalin, with respect to movable property, kach machlokes b'gittin. So Ben Beseira would also say that mouthing works with respect to gittin, and of course it's the exact reason that we just gave, that mouthing with respect to gittin would work for somebody who's a deaf mute, because mouthing with respect to kedushin and erisin also works for for the deaf mute. So as a result, we're going to enable them to go get divorced just as they're getting married. Well, one second, our Mishnah specifically says movable property. Well, how can you understand that our Mishnah went and say like Rav Nachman, who says that it was that the machlokas was both by movable and divorce? So ema afa metaltalin. So no, when we say metaltalin in our Mishnah, it really means afa metaltalin, even movable property. Okay. All right. So that was discussion number one of what the extent of the machlokas in our Mishnah. Now we turn to the children. Hapaotot mekhan mekaku mimkaran mimkar. That when it comes to movable property, children's sales and purchases are valid. And how old do you need to be? So Machve Rav Yehuda Rav Yitzchak Brei Kivar Shev, that it's 6 or 7, so that's what the age that these children can do these transactions. Rav Kahana Amar Kvar Shav Kvar Tamne. No, they've got to be 7 or 8. I'm sorry, Kivar. Shev Kivar Tamne, like like one who as somebody who's a child of 7 or child of 8. And we have a Breita that says Kivar Tesha Kivar Esa, that they have to be 9 or 10. Below Pligi, and actually, even though we've got these 3 different viewpoints, 6 or 7, 7 or 8, or 9 or 10, they don't actually disagree. Kol chad b'chad lefi chorfei. Every child according to their sharpness. The sharper the child, the younger that it can be. The time of my, what's the reason? Why do we allow this? These children to engage in transactions? Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Kedei Chayav, because of a child's needs. Let's take a look in Rashi. 4 lines into the widest lines of Rashi at the bottom of the page. Dei lav zvina. That if we don't say that what their transactions are valid transactions, lo mizavni le mizone, nobody will sell them food, below zavni mine, and nobody will buy anything from him. And you need, the child is, and in those days, the children were an integral part of the financial health of a family. And so you needed your children to be able to carry their weight, essentially. And so we need children to be able to buy and sell. So therefore, that's why the rabbis allowed the enforcement of those transactions. All right, Vayomer lasher el hameltacha hotzi lavush l'chol ovdei habal. So now we're going to teach another teaching of Rabbi Abba Bar Yaakov in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So my miltacha. So we have this word. So and he told the appointed over the miltacha, take out garments for all the worshipers of Baal. This is a story where they were trying to set up all the worshipers of Baal to be killed, and so they said that all of them should wear a special garment. So what is this meltacha? So Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Davar Hanimlal V'Nimtach. It's something that's rubbed and stretched. So it's very thin kind of garment. Here it suggests linen. So Ki Asa Rav Dimi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Shigar Lo Bunyam ben Nunyam l'Rebbe Sivni v'chomes salsala umalmala. So when Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, he told in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that Bunyan, the son of Nunyam, sent to Rebbe cloaks that were made of Sivni, Chomes, Salsala, and Malmala. Sivne v'chomes ka'amguza ufalge de amguza. Sivne and chomes could be folded to, basically the size of 1.5 nuts. So that's, very small. It's sort of like the ponchos. Salsala malmala kefistica ufalge de fistica. And salsala and malmala were so thin they could be folded into the size of 1.5 acorns. So that's an even smaller size. So my malmala davar hanimla benimtach, and malmala is something that is rolled and stretched. Okay. All right. So now, what happens if a miner makes a mistake? Vitausan. What if they make a mistake and the deal wasn't a fair deal? So ad kama, how much can they differ? In general, we say that if there's a 1/6 difference between the price paid and the actual value, so then it's case of ona, and depending on the amount of the difference, you could either undo the deal, get a refund, or it's tough luck. So if the difference is less than a 6, so it's tough luck. If the difference is exactly a 6, you can get a refund. If the difference is more than a 6, you can undo the deal. So Amar Rabbi Yonah, Amar Rabbi Zera, Ad Shesus Kedado, that it's the same rule for a minor, that until 1/6, that's when you can, it's a valid deal. At 1/6, you can get your money back, and above 1/6, it's an undone. The deal is void. So boy Abaye. So Abaye says, Matanato, my. What about the gifts of a minor? So Rabbi Yemer Amar, Ain Matana Matana. Their gifts are not a valid gift. Mar Barabashi, Amar Matanaso Matana. No, they are a good gift. So Avachua, but the students then accidentally switched them around. The Shadrua Kamei de Rabbi Mordechai, and they said the dispute in front of Mordechai, but they got it wrong. So Amar Lahu, Rabbi Mordechai said to them, Zilu Imr Lavar Mar, go tell the son of Mar. Again, Mar, tell Mar Baravashi. Lav Haki Hava Uvda. That wasn't what actually happened. And of course, it really wasn't what happened because the students just got things mixed up. Ki hava kai mar chad kare arav chad kare adarga. I remember that Rav Ashi was standing with one foot on the ground and one foot on a step. Va'amarna le matunaso mai. And we all asked him, all the students asked him, what's the story with the child's gift? So va'amarlan, and he said to all of us, matunaso matana, it's a good gift. So achas matana shechiv meira, doesn't make a difference whether the child is ill, achas matana bari, or child's well. Achas matana meruba, achas matana mulates, doesn't make a difference on the size of the gift either. So as a result, it's a valid gift. Okay. So now we're on to the next Mishnah, and we've been doing things that have been the benefit of society to enable the society to continue to function. But now we're going to change from areas of tikkun olam to darkei shalom. So let's take a look. Elu dvarim, and this one today's one has direct implications for how we read the Torah every day. Every day we read the Torah. So elu dvarim amru mipnei darkei shalom. These were things said in order to foster, harmony. And we're going to have 7 different items. Number 1, Kohen, Kohen Rishon. We call a Kohen first. V'acharav Levi, v'acharav Yisrael, and then a Levi, and then Yisrael. And when we go call people up to the Torah, Mipnei Darkei Shalom. Again, in order to, avoid disputes. Ma'arvin b'vayas yashan. We have an Eruv in the old house, meaning the house that the Eruv has always been in. Again, Mipnei Darkei Shalom, we don't want people to argue, so we settle the matter for them. Bor shehu karav, as we turn to Nun. This is an Eruv Chatzera. So if you want to have an Eruv Chatzera, you want to be able to carry among the different houses within a single Chatzer. So you need to have food set aside, 2 meals worth of food set aside in one of the houses, and we're going to put that in the same house every week and not move it around, so that way people don't fight about wanting to have it in their no, that's how many meals we have, but I believe that the Eruv Chatzeros is just 2 meals worth of food. Borshu Karav La'ama Mismale Rishon. So the cistern that is close to the irrigation channel, it gets filled first. And what we mean by that is close to the start of the irrigation channel. So what you would have if you have a river, and then off the river you would have these channels that would then take water to the fields. And then off that one channel, you would have pits where you would store water, so that if the level of the river went down, you would still be able to move the water from the cistern into the channel so that your field could get watered. And what you would do is you would dam up the channel below your field, and that way your field would get watered, and you keep that dam up so that it would fill up the cistern for your field, and then the field below you would do that. And even though really everybody has effectively a similar claim to say, I want my cistern to be filled first, the rabbi said we're going to fill the cisterns based on the proximity to the water source. So that way the river, so that way we're going to fill them one by one, and we're not going to have arguments about it, even though effectively
that are closest to the first draw, if you will,
have an advantage. Correct. That's exactly right. And more expensive. That's exactly right. Okay. So then mitzudos chayav opos v'dagim yesh behen mishum gezel. Now, when do you own something? You own something when you pick it up. And so when it comes to traps for wild animals, for birds, for fish, so that is, as soon as the animal is in the trap, then it is going to be considered like it's the possession of the owner. And so we're going to treat somebody who takes somebody else's animal out of their trap as a thief, because again, we want to try and avoid disputes, have a sense of peace among us. So Rabbi Yossi Omer Gezel Gamar. Rabbi Yossi says, and we're going to see in the Gemara that he's saying that this is a rabbinic, not biblical thief theft, but it's actually rabbinic theft. That the rabbis actually said that we're going to actually give it to the original owner of the trap, and so it's actual theft. Similarly, if somebody who's a deaf mute or is insane or is a minor finds an object, even though their possession does not actually count, we're going to say you can't go and take it away from them. That's going to be we're going to apply theft to that, again, because we want to foster harmony, because we don't want people to just take things away from that when a child finds something. So Rabbi Yossi Omer Gezel Gomer. Rabbi Yossi again says, no, that's actual theft. The rabbis gave these items to the deaf mute, the insane person, or the child, so it's actual theft. So okay, Ani Hamanakit Barosh Hazayas. If you have a poor person who's at the top of an olive tree, and he's taking the olives that were left over, and he's shaking the olive tree at the top so that the olives fall down to below him. Masha Tachtav Gezel. If somebody then takes the olives that fell to the ground underneath him, that's stealing. And again, Mipnei Darkei Shalom, because again, we want to promote peace, that we don't want him to have to lose those. Rabbi Yossi Omer, no, Gezel Gomer, it's actual theft. So that's number 6 of our rules. And finally, Ein Memachin Biyad Aniye Obdi Kochavim Beleket Shechacho Peah. And if a poor non-Jew comes into a Jew's field and to want to take the leket, shechacha, and peah, we do not throw them out. We do not bother them. We allow them to take it. Again, Mimnei Darkei Shalom. Even though we sort of feel like these should be for the Jews, but we're going to allow anybody to take it. So we're going to now focus just on number 1, just on this case of the cistern. So Sorry, I just realized I did not rotate my screen, so I'm going to do that slowly here. And so now the Gemara, they're going to do the Kohen, Levi, and Yisrael. That's exactly right. So that's what we're going to focus on now. We're going to first give the source for it, and then we're going to ask a question based on that. So let's take a look. Mina Hanimili, how do I know this? So we're going to give 4 answers. Amar of Masna. To Amar Krav Yuchtov Moshe es Torah Zos v'Yitnes El HaKohanim B'nei Levi. At the end of the Sefer Dvarim, it says Moshe wrote a Torah and he gave it to the Kohanim who were the children of Levi. Well, Atu Ana Lo Yadana to Kohanim B'nei Levi Ninhu. Of course, we know already that the Kohanim are the children of Levi. Ella Kohen Bereisha v'Hadar Levi. Well, no, what it's telling us is that a Kohen goes first and then the Levi. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar. No, Mehacha. Rabbi Yitzchak Nachman says, no, it's from this. V'nigshua Kohanim b'nei Levi. When it comes to the, this is a similar thing, but it's not about the writing of the Torah. This is about Egla Arufa. So we see that the Kohanim, the descendants of the Levi, should come forward. Well, again, Atu Ana Lo Yadina to Kohanim b'nei Levi Ninhu. So again, Ella Kohen Bereisha v'Hadar Levi. Again, this pasuk refers to Kohanim as descendants of Levi in order to tell us that it's not just when it comes to the Torah; it's all kinds of mitzvos. We would say that the Kohanim go before Leviim, and you can actually view these 4 opinions as expanding on one another. So the first opinion would say that this is the basis just for the rule with respect to the reading of the Torah. The second one says, no, it's the basis for any kind of preferential treatment of Kohanim in connection with any kind of mitzvah. And Rav Ashi Amar Mihacha b'nei Amran Aharon u'Moshe vayibadel Aharon lahakdisho kodesh kodeshim. And so Aaron and the sons, this is in Divrei Hayamim, the pasuk, that the sons of Amram were Aaron and Moshe, and Aaron was separated to become the Holy of Holies. So since they reference to Aaron as Holy of Holies, so clearly he's supposed to go first. And again, this would seem to be that maybe it would be any kind of religious service. So the first one was Torah. The second one was kind of any kind of mitzvah. Now the third would be any kind of Torah-related situation. And so now we'll do one more, which expands it even further. And that's the way we effectively paskin. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Mehacha v'kidash to, that you shall sanctify him. This is a pasuk in Parshas Amor, where it says the rules of the Kohanim avoiding becoming tamei, and it says that you shall sanctify him, and he shall be holy to you. All right. So l'chol davar shebekadusha, any kind of situation gives you the opportunity to make him holy. So Tana devei Rabbi Yishmael v'kidash to l'chol davar b'shebekadusha, any kind of holiness. Liftoach rishon, to open things first. And this is Rashi explains here, Liptoach Rishon. Take a look 2 lines below where it says Gemara in the Rashi. V'chol davar kavod, any kind of honor, bein b'Torah, bein b'yeshiva, hu yidaber rosh. Whether it's Torah learning or sitting, any kind of situation, he goes first. So that's the first. Uvarech Rishon, and Rashi says B'suda, when it comes to benching at a meal, that's he should go first. V'litul manayafa rishon, and he should also take the first portion. Im ba lachlok im Yisrael, if he's coming to divide with a Jew. B'chol davar, any kind of situation. La'achar sheyachloku b'shavet, once you divide the portions up into equal portions. So we're going to again assume that all of the portions have an equal value. Omerlo, you should say to the Kohen, Baror, choose the toll and take Eza Shatir, so whichever you want. Okay, so that is the story with respect to prioritizing Kohanim. So Amar le Abaye Rav Yosef. So now Abaye, having heard all of this, asked Rav Yosef, well, 1 second, Mimnei Darchei Shalom, you said, or it was said in our Mishnah that this was all because of Darchei Shalom. That's why we set this up, and therefore it would be effectively rabbinic. But Deoraisahi, this is actually biblically required. So Amrle Doraisa Mimnei Darke Shalom. So Rav Yosef respond to him saying, no, it is Torah required, but the Torah was requiring it because of Darke Shalom, because Torah wants peace among Jews. But when second Torah Kula Nami Mimnei Darke Shalom you can make that argument with respect to the entire Torah, because Diksiv, what do we say as we put away the Torah? Shalom, that all of the ways are pleasant and all of her paths are peaceful. So you can't if you can't say that this is something special if in fact all of the Torah would apply to this. So Ella Amar Abaye, so Abaye offers his own explanation. Look at Demar. It's actually like Mar. Mar refers to Rabbah, and we'll see that Rabbah is going to offer a commentary on a brisa that we're about to quote. Tanya, we have a brisa about which Rabbah is going to make a comment. When you are having a meal with another person, if you want to be polite, the way to be polite is that if the one person stops eating, then you should wait for them to come back to the meal to start eating again. Shlosha emamtinin. But once you have three people at a meal, if one of them separates from the meal for a bit, the other two don't have to wait for the third because they can continue eating. Habotseya hu poshet yado tchila. That the one who breaks is the one, namely the person who says hamotzi. He's the one poshet yado. He reaches out his hand first, meaning he's going to go and get the rest of the food first as well. Rashi explains that we're talking about, for example, the Baal Bayis, the one who owns the house. He gets to go first. He makes the hamotzi and he gets the food first. However, if he wants to allow somebody else to be honored and do these things and go first, then or to somebody who's more prominent than the Baal Bayit, Harishos biyado, he's allowed to do so. But Amar Mar Allah, and it was about this that Rabbah said, Lo shanu ela b'suda. That is true. That ability to reorder priority so that the ordinary order where is not the one that you follow, that is true at a meal. Aval b'beis haKnesses, when it comes to ordering priorities in shul, no, you're not allowed to change the order around. To also insuye, because then it's going to lead to fighting. So what Abaye is saying is that yes, biblically you're required to put Kohanim first, but from the Torah, that Kohen is now allowed to say, you know what, I don't want to go first. I want to give the honor to John Doe. And so as a result, you might think that you could give the honor to John Doe. So when it comes to shul, we're not going to allow it. So Amar of Masna, Hada Amr Bevesa Knesses Lo Amran Ela B'Shabbasos V'Yamim Tovim D'Shchicha Shiche Rabim. That when it comes to shul, that's only on Shabbos and Yom Tov when there are lots of people there. Aval B'Sheni V'Chamishi Lo. But when it comes to Mondays and Thursdays, then we would not have to necessarily give a Kohen and Levi precedence because there aren't as many people there. Aini, is it really true that we would give the priority even on Shabbos and Yom Tov? Rav Huna kare b'kahane b'Shabbosos b'Yom Tovim. Rav Huna, who was not a Kohen, would get the Kohen Aliyah on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Well, shiny Rav Huna. Rav Huna is different. Dafil Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Asi kahane chashivi de Eretz Yisrael. That Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi, who were Kohanim and the most distinguished Kohanim in all of Israel, mechav havu kaifiloi. They would defer to Rav Huna in Torah, and so as a result, that makes sense that he would go first. So Amar Abaye, Naktinan Ein Shem Sham Kohen Nisparda Chavila. That if in fact there is no Kohen, so then our custom, our tradition is to unravel the knot. That idea, meaning, as Rashi explains, two possibilities. One is that we allow whoever to go first, or specifically, we don't want a Kohen or a Levi to go first. Obviously, there's no Kohen. We don't want a Levi to go first. We only want a Yisrael to go first. And if there's no Levi, well, then the Kohen will read the Levi in his place. One second, Aini, is that really true that a Kohen would go instead of the Levi? Now, because we're assuming that it's a different Kohen. But Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Kohen after Kohen lo yikare. You never should call one Kohen after another. Mishum pegamo shel rishon, because we're worried about the first one being improper. Levi achar Levi lo yikare, and so you shouldn't call a Levi after another Levi. Mishum pegam shneihem, because we're worried about discrediting both of them. People will think that both of them are problem. So no, ki kamrinan ba'osa Kohen. No, when we said that the Kohen will go in the place of the Levi, we call up the Kohen that already had the first Aliyah, and that is in fact what we do. If there's no Kohen, if there's no Levi, the first Kohen goes twice. If there is no Kohen, however, then we will allow either a Levi or a Yisrael to go first. So Maishna Levi la'achar Levi de'ika pagam shnehem. Well, 1 second. When Rabbi Yochanan made his statement, he said that if a Levi goes after a Levi, we're worried about the discrediting of both of them. But the Amar Chad Minaihu Lav Levihu, because we're worried that either one of them might be considered not a real Levi. Well, Kohen achar Kohen nami, we should have the same concern, but that's not what he said. He said, Mishum pegamo shel rishon. Amri Chad Minaihu Lav Kohenhu. So why did Rabbi Yochanan only talk about the first one? So kagon de muchsachlan ba'avua de haysheni the Kohenhu. So we're talking about a situation where we know that the second Kohen's father is a valid Kohen. Well, 1 second, hachanami the muchsachlan avua de haysheni levihu. Well, 1 second, if we had the second father of if we knew that the father of the second Levi was a valid Levi, so the situations are parallel, well, then we should say only the first Levi we have to worry about his credentials. Ella Amri Mamzeres Onasina Nasib. Well, no, you can say that maybe the Levi who was the father married a Mamzeret or a Natina Upsale Lazare, and now the children of that Levi now are no longer considered Leviim, they're considered Yisraelim, because the Levi father married a Mamzeret or a Natina. Well, Hachinami, again, we could say the same thing by a Kohen. Amri Garusha O Chalutza Nasib. Maybe he married a divorcee or a chalutza, but achle lazare, and now he disqualified his offspring. But that's actually going to be the answer, because Levi Mika Havi. Well, 1 second. If in fact you called two Kohanim in a row and two different Kohanim, and the second one, his father was a valid Kohen. Well, what are you trying to say? What are you saying by calling the second Kohen? What's the concern? The concern is that people might think he's not a Kohen, he's a Levi. But we all know that his father is actually a Kohen. Well, 1 second, if in fact maybe you're going to say, oh, well, maybe his father, the Kohen, married somebody he's not supposed to, but then his child wouldn't be treated as a Levi. He would be treated as a Yisrael. And you are giving him the Levi Aliyah. So it can't be that the father married the wrong person. So as a result, we must know that the Kohen, who is his father, and we know is his father, married the right person, which means that we actually know that the second Kohen is a valid Kohen. And so as a result, the only question will be, do we believe that the first Kohen is the first Kohen? But when it comes to a Levi, we would have questions about both of the Leviim. Okay, Ulaman. Who would have this question? Because Eli Yoshvin, if you're talking about the people who stay in shul for the entire time, they'll see that the first Kohen and the second Kohen were both counted towards the number of aliyot in the day. And so as a result, they'll know it must be that both are valid. But so Ella Liotzin. So we'll say that the concern that we have is for people who leave shul. And obviously you're not supposed to leave shul while the Torah is being read. But if you leave shul without having waited till the end of the Torah reading, you might get confused. So all right. So now the question is, after, I'm sorry for not rotating. After the Kohen and the Levi get their aliyot, who goes next? That is the question that we will, God willing, begin with tomorrow. So wish you all a wonderful day and a good Shabbos, and we'll pick up with Shalchule B'nai Galila, LeRebbe Chelbo, tomorrow. Have a great day. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, look at it, it's outside now. Bye, everybody. Have a good Shabbos.
Too, Ralph.